Many people assume that video games are merely an escape from reality. But for those who grew up with the Suikoden series, these games are more than just a war simulator or a quest to collect 108 characters. Suikoden is a political laboratory. From the betrayal of a best friend and the collapse of a corrupt empire, to the ideological clashes that ignite civil wars and the agonizing dilemma between personal morality and national stability. Today, we will dissect Suikoden, not as gamers, but as political observers. We will explore how Machiavellian theory, the social contract, political realism, and many more operate behind the scenes of Suikoden's lore. We begin with First Suikoden. The Scarlet Moon Empire was initially a prosperous nation under the leadership of Barbarossa. However, it slowly began to decay from within. This calls to mind Polybius' theory of cycles, or anacyclosis. Polybius, an ancient Greek historian, proposed that forms of government evolved through a recurring six-stage cycle: monarchy, tyranny, aristocracy, oligarchy, democracy, and ochlocracy. In the shift from monarchy to tyranny, we see Barbarossa, once a wise ruler manipulated by Windy, transforming him into a tyrant. Power that is centralized without checks and balances is inevitably destined for corruption. The rebellion. Achilles, a nobleman from the countryside, witnessed the suffering of the people and ignited the uprising, which was later continued by Odessa, also a noble, and eventually passed to Tyr McDowell. These aristocrats led the Tauran Liberation Army. When a state fails to provide security and justice, the people lose their reason to obey. This is a fundamental breach of the social contract. Here, we learn that a leader's legitimacy does not stem from the true rune they possess, but from the welfare of their people. Once that contract is broken, revolution becomes the logical consequence. In Suikoden 2, we are confronted by two best friends with the same vision but radically different methods: Ryu and Jowy. This is the ultimate case study in political realism, or realpolitik. First coined by Ludwig von Roschau in 1853 and later popularized by Otto von Bismarck. Realpolitik is an approach to politics and diplomacy based on practical considerations, pragmatism, and national interest, even when they clash with ideology, morality, or ethics. And the sad truth? They often do. Jowy Atreides, the realist, believed that to end a war, one must become the monster that controls all sides. He fully adopts the principle of Niccolò Machiavelli. The end justifies the means. He attacks Lady Annabelle, his father-in-law, King Agares Blight, commits betrayal, and seizes control of Highland to force peace through mandatory unification. On the other side, we have Ryu, the idealist. He builds a coalition rooted in trust, cooperation between the jousting city-states, and consensus. The question remains, who was right? Jowy achieved peace with stained hands, while Ryu achieved it through unity, essentially talk no jutsu scaled up to a continental level. Suikoden 2 teaches us that in the world of politics, there is rarely a clear-cut choice between right or wrong. There are only choices with different consequences. Unlike its predecessors, Suikoden 3 doesn't just tell the story of a single monolithic empire. Instead, it explores the friction between tribalism and modernity. The conflict between the 6 clans of the Grasslands and the Zexan Confederacy is a perfect mirror of social identity theory pioneered by Henry Tashfeld. In-group versus out-group dynamics was portrayed well here. At its heart, this is a clash of perceptions. The Zexan see themselves as a civilized, economically advanced nation, viewing the Grasslands tribes as barbarians. Conversely, the tribes see the Zexan as cold, encroaching invaders. This us versus them mentality is precisely what shadow players within the game manipulate to spark a continental war. Post-colonial theory and the identity crisis. The borderlands are often flashpoints for cultural friction and resource disputes, in this case, the struggle over true runes. Just look at the people of Libuk, who are slowly losing their identity as grasslanders after years of Harmonian occupation. This is a classic study in colonial psychological warfare. Libuk's children are sent to Crystal Valley to be educated, exposed to a superior civilization until they feel their own culture is inferior. these citizens are trapped. They obey Harmonia's orders to attack their own kin in the grasslands, lured by the hollow promise of being promoted from third-class to second-class citizens. In post-colonial theory, we see how an occupying power leaves an indelible mark on the colonized, creating a hierarchy where the occupier's culture is framed as the ultimate standard of progress. For me, this is the entry in the series where interfactional conflict feels the most visceral, achieved through what we call radical empathy. This is the active, profound effort to understand the experiences of others, even those we disagree with, by stripping away our personal biases and fears. The developers achieved this through the Trinity Site system. While some fans criticize the pacing, from a political science perspective, it is a stroke of genius. We are forced to view a single conflict through 3 different lenses. It teaches us that in ethnic and territorial disputes, there is rarely a pure villain. There are only colliding perspectives. In fact, by allowing you to play as the main antagonist, the game forces you to inhabit their logic and understand exactly why they chose their path. Suikoden 3 reminds us, in politics, the truth isn't found in one story, but in the space where all stories meet.